guys, today we have a full body at-home workout that requires only a couple of sets of dumbbells and a workout bench or a sturdy chair or a comparable surface of about the same height. Now, we're going to be starting with a dumbbell floor press. So, we're going to grab a set of dumbbells here, make sure they match. That's important right now. I know equipment can be limited for some people, but we do want to make sure at the least that we're using a matching set of dumbbells. We'll place the dumbbells down on the floor, and then you as well will get down to the floor to start. Seated position, we're going to get each dumbbell up to the leg, just like so. And from here, we're going to roll right back, keeping the dumbbells tight to the chest. Now, from this position, you can either keep your legs fully extended or move to a bent knee position. That's a preference thing, though. So whichever you prefer is what you go with. I like legs extended. From here, the dumbbells will remain in contact with each other throughout each repetition and the entire set. Tight grip on the handles. Keeping the elbows tight to the sides, you're going to press up to a full extension, and the elbows control back down to the chest, so both ends of the dumbbell touch, and then back up to a full extension in the elbows. Now ideally, you'll have a set of weights that at the very minimum is challenging by rep 20, but if you have access to something heavier, and you prefer to work in the 6 to 10 rep range, or the 8 to 12 rep range, or 12 to 15 rep range, that's okay as well. In fact, I encourage it, assuming you can lift the weight with proper form. Now, as soon as that is done, you're immediately going to move to a standing position. We'll grab the dumbbells again. If you have access to a different set of weights that you prefer to use, you're more than welcome to switch at this point. We're going to be going into a 2-arm dumbbell row. So we'll pick these dumbbells up, slight bend in the knees, hips are going to go back, lowering the chest down until it's just about parallel with the floor. From here, full extension in the arms, tight grip on the dumbbells, and we're going to row the elbows back towards the hips, squeezing the shoulder blades at the peak of the range of motion. So we're up and squeeze, keeping those elbows tight to the sides, drawing the elbows back towards the hips. And now once you've done your entire set of those, you can take your first rest. Both of those exercises will be done back to back, and the only break you get is standing up and transitioning into the rows from the floor press. Now we'll be doing that for 5 consecutive rounds, and yes, if you only have one set of dumbbells and the rep ranges are different, that's okay. So in theory, if you're doing floor presses and the weight you're using is challenging for 10 reps, when you get up to rows, you can do 15. That's more than okay. We're going to use what we have access to right now. The only thing that I do want you to be aware of is that you're executing each repetition with proper form. You're not pushing yourself through repetitions and allowing your form to break down and risk injury. Now, once you've completed 5 rounds of the floor spoon presses and the 2-arm dumbbell rows, we're going to transition into a lunge and a conditioning exercise that's going to target the lower body. So for this combination, the second exercise is going to require 2 landmarks. So I'll use this water bottle here, and I'll likely end up using my watch, but that's in a brief moment. So we're going to be starting with a lunge variation. Now, if you have room to do walking lunges, we'll be doing those, and it will be goblet loaded. So if bodyweight lunges are more than challenging for you, we'll start with those. But if you need a little bit more of a challenge, if you do have access to a dumbbell, then we'll be doing a goblet loading style. So holding the dumbbell or kettlebell or whatever you're using as a load up at chest level, just like so. And each repetition of lunge, you're going to step. Range of motion is knee tapping the floor and back to a full extension, ensuring we're driving primarily through the lead leg as you stand up. Now the key here is we want that measurable range of motion where you're actually making contact with the floor, but we're not plopping the back knee into the floor. So you're not stepping, thud, no good. It's a small tap just to ensure range of motion and measurability. If we don't touch the floor, then what ends up happening is we assume we're going through a full range of motion on each rep, but it could be changing ever so slightly, which becomes a challenge to ensure that the load we're using is safe, because we might subconsciously lessen the range of motion as the weight gets heavier and assume that we're doing the same amount of work. But if we know we have to make that brief point of contact with the floor on each repetition, then we can ensure if the weight is too heavy, we'll know, because we can't get down to the ground and back up efficiently. Now, if you don't have the space to do walking lunges, maybe you don't have a long basement or hallway, or you're not training outside, you're training inside in a small room, we'll do stationary lunges, but we will step back on each repetition. So you're going to reach back, tap the floor, return back to the standing position. Tap the floor, and back to a standing position. When we do these, we do want to alternate back and forth, so you'll do 1 repetition on the right leg, and then switch to 1 repetition on the left leg. The rep range, less than 20. So if you have a weight that feels challenging, you can crank out 20 reps with quality form, we'll do that. If you have a load that's heavier, you'd like to hang out in maybe the 12 or 15 rep range, that works as well. As soon as that's done, we're going to combine that with a conditioning drill that targets a leg. So you're going to set up a landmark on each side, just outside of shoulder width apart. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do 30 seconds of shuffles. You're going to employ a low stance. You're going to tap your hand outside of one landmark, switch your foot, and tap on the other side. I apologize, it's a cross reach. So as you come to the right side, you're tapping with your left arm, and vice versa. You're basically switching out your center foot. If that requires a little too much coordination for you, simply slow yourself down and focus on getting this step right until you feel more confident. This is for 30 seconds straight, so even at a walking pace, you are going to feel your legs working, especially after executing a full set of lunges. These 2 exercises go back to back with no break whatsoever. 5 consecutive rounds. I would suggest taking a little bit longer of a rest, maybe 90 seconds, as soon as you've done both of them back to back. Now the next combination will be executed for only 3 rounds, and it's going to target the rear delts and the upper back. So we'll get our weights out of the way here. You're going to need a light set of dumbbells for this. Now depending on your level of strength and whether or not you have access to lighter dumbbells, even some full bottles of water, the 500 ml bottles of water, will likely prove more than adequate with this one. So we're going to do a rear dumbbell lateral for this one, or a bent over dumbbell lateral, depending on which title you'd like to give this one. Feet are about shoulder width apart, slight bend in the knees. We're going to drive the hips back, lower the chest down, elbows are fully extended. Now from this position, you're going to raise the dumbbells up until they're about parallel with the floor, but we don't want to use momentum here. So we're not swinging, we're raising the arms up with control, brief pause at parallel with the floor, and back down. Now what's key here is we want to keep those elbows fully extended. So a cue I give people is to reach their knuckles out to the walls beside them. So you're reaching out. When you get parallel with the floor, you want to try and squeeze those shoulder blades together and ensure that at the bottom you're not touching the dumbbell, so we're maintaining maximal tension on the upper back. We'll roll this exercise for 15 to 20 consecutive repetitions in a row. As soon as that's done, we'll get the dumbbells out of the way, and we're going to move into handcuffs. Handcuffs, they're a personal favorite of mine when it comes to targeting the rear delts without using any equipment. They're brutal no matter how strong you are. So, what we're going to do is assume a face down position on the ground. Arms are fully extended, pinkies are going to touch, come back around, brief tap on the lower back, and then back to a full extension, thumbs up to the skies, pinkies touch. This is for 20 repetitions through. Now, if the weights you have available are too light for the bent over laterals, you could of course switch the order of these. You could pre-fatigue the rear delts and then move into the rear flies, so that if the weights you have are too light, the intensity will be relative because the muscles will be pre-fatigued going into them. So that is an option. If you only have 5-pound dumbbells available and you're super strong and you can maintain good form with like 15s because you're tough, then you could definitely throw these in first and then move on to a lighter set of dumbbell bent over laterals. That combination there goes back to back with no break, 3 rounds with a brief 60-second rest in between. Now the final combination, I'll just get the weights out of the way here. This is where you're going to need your workout bench or your very sturdy chair or your comparable height surface. We're going to be targeting the triceps here using bench dips, and then we'll also be targeting the glutes. So we want to make sure that we're not neglecting that posterior chain. That's very important here. So arms are going to be just shoulder width apart. They should be hugging tightly to your side. You're going to step forward off the bench like a smidge, just enough that your bum is almost touching the edge of the bench when you come forward. And what we're going to do is we're going to bend at the elbows and lower the bum down towards the floor just like so. And pressing up to a full extension in the elbow. Now what you'll notice here is that the majority of the movement is coming from that bending of the elbows. I'm not rocking my entire body forward, lowering down and using my legs to lift myself back up, because that doesn't prioritize the back of the arms. We're gonna bend the elbows, lower down, press up through the palms of the hands, fully extended the elbows, keeping that body nice and close to the bench at all times. You'll notice I'm also keeping my elbows tight to the sides as well, making sure that they're pointing back to the wall behind me and not flaring out to the sides. Now this is an AMRAP set, so as many reps as you can possibly do in 30 seconds, at which point we'll do a smooth little transition over, position the feet up on top of the surface. We want the knees to be bent at about 90 degrees, and we're going to move into a burnout set of bridges. Now, these should actually be quite challenging after you've done 5 rounds of lunges with a relatively intense weight. So hands are going to go down by the sides, and you're going to drive your heels into the bench, lift your hips up in the air, and squeeze your bum cheeks when you get to the top. We're going to lower down. We still want clearance underneath the lower back and the glutes, so we maintain tension on the back of the legs. We're going to drive the hips up again, and with a very deliberate pace, we're going to do as many reps as possible in 30 seconds. Now once that set is done, you get to take a break. Those two go back to back as well, with no rest in between. 30 seconds, as many reps as you can of bench dips, followed by 30 seconds of as many reps as possible of glute bridges with your feet elevated. Rest for 60 seconds, repeat for 3 consecutive rounds. If you need a review of what we just did in that workout, simply read the description. I'll have everything summarized for you so you can refer back to it as you see fit. If you know anybody that could benefit from some home workout variety right now, give this a share or tag them in the video. As well, make sure you subscribe for more training content.